Hello, New Zealand. March for life. To march on behalf of the most vulnerable, the most precious, our children, our future. You are marching for mothers and fathers, for families, to support them, to nourish them, because we know that our countries are founded on families, are founded on the future, which is our children. Over 500,000 lives have been lost in New Zealand to abortion. Our movement is a winning one. This is the good news. Change is possible.
Good morning, New Zealand. Well, that's coming up this Saturday, so you better be ready to go. I hope you've been getting the walking boots on and getting up to training, because you've got to walk up Queen Street. So, yeah, a bit of exercise. Saturday, that is happening. Hope to see you there. All right, this is Daybreak. Hope you had a great weekend. It's Monday. Let's check out some of the stories. This is your morning wake-up call. Yep, it is the 2nd of March and Monday morning, start of a new week, and of course, start of autumn. Yep, we are out of summer, and apparently the cold front's coming through, so I don't know if it's a bit chillier at your place. Not really here just yet. It was super muggy last night in Auckland. All right, let's check out the lead stories just in the mainstream media, the lamestream media, as some call it. And of course, it's basically all about Iran. New Zealand Herald, 3 US troops killed, 5 others seriously wounded. They're speaking with expert Helen Clark this morning on Herald Now. You can imagine what that's going to be. I'll come back to that in just a minute. Stuff also, 3 US troops dead, but the US has destroyed and sunk 9 Iranian naval ships. The Post talks about Iranians celebrating and mourning attacks as an expert, says regime change unlikely. Who is that expert? Well, it's the same expert that all of the media, all of our media go to. It is Robert Patman. And he, although interestingly, the Dominion Post in Wellington, they've called him Robert Patmore. I mean, they can't even get the name right. But he is a University of Otago professor of international relations. You'll see him on basically every New Zealand media outlet. He is apparently the expert. And I think it was him, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was him that said that Trump has done this as a distraction from the Epstein files. Yeah, okay. The press in Christchurch talks about a Christchurch family caught in the crossfire of Middle East conflict. Radio New Zealand says 48 top Iranian leaders killed, according to Trump, and also that the new Iranian leadership have contacted Trump, or Trump has said that they've contacted him and back to the negotiating table. And One News, Iran vows revenge. Trades strikes with Israel amid widening war. Well, Iran versus Israel, you know who's going to lose that one. And it's not going to be Israel. Look, just on a humorous side, straight after the attack, Lego came out with their new product, the Kamini compound. Actually, the very funny Babylon Bee as well, where they said the breaking news from the leaders of Iran was, golly, they wish they'd done their latest meeting on Zoom rather than meeting together. So there has been sort of some humor out of all of this. But I just want to read 2 quick commentaries from people I trust in their analysis. One is Ashley Church, who you'll know from Straight Talk. He says, as decent people everywhere celebrate the elimination of the despotic tyrant Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, supreme leader of Iran since 1989. Wow, 1989. Serious questions need to be asked of the Western left-wing movement. For nearly 5 decades, the Islamic Republic suppressed speech, denied women equal legal standing, executed dissenters, exported militancy abroad, all while influential voices in the so-called progressive left in the West have looked on approvingly and held it up as the poster regime for the religion of peace. Despite this, activists in the West have opted for a narrative that frames Iran as a victim of US influence on its citizens and as the face of the resistance against Israel. And of course, Iran has been funding all the terrorism that's been happening around the world, and especially in Israel, and funding Hamas. And of course, now the Iranian people have risen up for basic freedoms. The regime responded with bullets, arrests, and executions. Where was Robert Patman and Helen Clark and the Greens on that? And much of the West looked away. And then Simon O'Connor, my colleague, has done a Substack on this as well, and says, the acceptance of critical race theory, intersectionality, and cultural Marxist concepts has well influenced many in these elite circles. It's a key reason why notions of truth and right have been replaced with moral equivalence and relativism. In this rather childish but dangerous mindset, the likes of the US and Israel are always wrong. They're the oppressor. Simultaneously, the Islamic Republic is the oppressed. Well, the people are oppressed, but not the leadership. And the gross successes of the regime are explained away by blaming others. We need only think of the recent numbers of murders of perhaps more than 30,000 Iranian civilians by the Islamic regime, and yet where blame by these same elites was attributed, among other things, to the economic sanctions imposed by New Zealand and other countries. And Simon says there is much talk of human rights and so on from the likes of Amnesty International. Well, Amnesty International believe in abortion, so they're not into human rights. The irony is surely not lost on them that groups such as the Islamic regime in Iran do not believe in human rights. Human rights are a Judeo-Christian derived concept, not one the Islamic mullahs subscribe to. It is clear as the burqas on the women of Iran that the regime does not believe in equal rights or the rights of women or the execution of civilians without fair trial or exporting terror or killing those who convert from Islam. The list goes on. So there we are. There's a little bit of balance to some of the media coverage you may be getting. Although, in fairness, I did watch One News last night, and I thought they gave good voice to people around the world who were celebrating the downfall of the Islamic regime. Anyway, we will continue to watch that one with interest. Right, let's have a look at some of the other stories. The latest Ipsos poll is out, and people still have memory lapse, and they forget what happened between 2017 and 2023 when we had a Labor government, and they still think that Labor can solve the problems, that they can fix the healthcare and hospitals, which they drag to the ground. Housing, people still think that Labor can solve the housing crisis. Do you remember how many houses they actually built when they were supposed to build all those houses? But you can see there, everybody thinks that, I mean, the Greens obviously on climate change and environmental things, although nobody says how they would do it and how much we would suffer because of it in terms of taxes. But look at that. Labor apparently can solve most of these problems. National only on defence, and you'll see there on crime, law and order. They've done a very good job on that. We saw the results yesterday. I'm actually doing a blog on that on how the media covered that drop in violent crime, which was a great success. But boy, media coverage was woeful. And rating of the government. So the red block down the bottom, that's when Labor were in power, from the giddy heights of 2020 when everybody got suckered in and voted in Jacinda into absolute power for those 3 or 2 years before she resigned. And then blue is when National took over out the right there. And you can see they sort of started on, I mean, they got voted in and they're on 4.8 approval, and they've had a little bounce back out the far right and it's now 4.2. So, yeah, I mean, that's almost margin of error, isn't it? And basically they're on the same approval rating as when they first got in, which was still low. It almost seems as though we just don't have much trust in government, full stop, which probably isn't a bad thing. Less government, maybe more strong families, promote marriage. Interesting study in the Post over the weekend that basically they did sent young people into alcohol outlets and found that quite often liquor outlets were selling to minors. Yeah, this is the same fantastic regulation that they promised if we'd legalized cannabis. they said, oh, we won't let kids get access to it. And people, dealers and outlets won't sell to underage. Of course they do. And they are. They're doing it with alcohol. And kids are paying the cost. Now, I saw this interesting video from the Minister of Education, Erica Stanford. My heart was warmed by what she said, but there's a couple of interesting things just to note on it. Here it is.
No parent should be left wondering how their child is doing at school, assuming that everything is okay until they find out later that they're behind in really key areas. And that's why we've improved reporting to parents this year with more detailed and clear school reports. We're also introducing assessments that help show how your children are progressing, and these will feed into the school reports, so you'll be able to see exactly how your child is doing and where they may need some extra support or even extension. They'll also provide comments from teachers on other areas that you're used to, like behaviour and values. You should also
values. That's an interesting one.
So expect classrooms that are more focused, with fewer distractions and clearer teaching. We've banned the use of cell phones in schools, and we're keeping our promise to get rid of those open plan classrooms. They weren't working for students and they weren't working for teachers. These changes are designed to lift achievement and give your child the very best possible opportunity to succeed and go on to live the life that they want.
Well, simple question, Erica. I mean, that's a great announcement. Totally agree. But does that include parents being informed when kids think they want to be the opposite sex and want to use chest binders and want preferred pronouns? Does it include when a teenager is pregnant and wants an abortion and wants to be sneaked off for an abortion by the school nurse? Do parents get told then? Because at the moment, the law says they don't. And the Education Ministry are telling schools that they don't have to tell parents when their kids think they want to be the opposite sex. So, look, I'm all for this disclosure, Erica, but it's got to apply across the board. Now, what else have we got here? Oh, this was the Sunday Star Times. This was our favourite reporter, Andrea Vance, the one who uses the C word, who doesn't like misogyny and abuse of female MPs, except when she does it, and then it's okay. But anyway, she had a look at some survey analysis, and in it said, so the title is, voters are more likely to expect that the economy will worsen. That's the key word, worsen. Not stay the same or get better, but worsen over the next 12 months. The problem is that when you look at the graph, only 38%, which is the 26 and the 12 down the bottom, say they think it will worsen. So that's not more. More are likely to say it will improve up the top there, 5 and 29, or stay the same, which is the 25. If you add up those top three blocks, what's that? That's 40, 54, 59%, almost 60% say that it's either going to improve or stay the same. That is not worsen. So it's a deliberate use of words to push a narrative. I mean, and there was another graph that I saw, which was part of it. Now, if you look out the right there, and I've circled it, so not confident is the red line and confident is the green line, you'll see there was a little drop over the 6 months in the middle of last year. But then it goes October 25, December 25, February 26. So basically 2 month periods. And you will see there that there's been a not confident went down, and then it's just bounced up a little bit, but not quite as much as it was. And confident went down to 32, up to 36, down to 31. So that's bouncing as well. What does that say to you? It says that, well, actually, confidence and not confidence is sort of bouncing around at the moment and not changing a lot. But look at the heading. Voters are becoming increasingly more likely to not be confident. Yeah. So this is why you don't take Andrea Vance and you don't take the Sunday Star Times, which is a stuff stable, seriously when they distort graphs like that. It's poor journalism. Andrew Little, the Mayor of Wellington, who used to be in Labour, he's crying off X, Twitter. He's also not updating Bebo and MySpace. Okay, boomer. He's probably getting rid of his BlackBerry as well. I think he's being sarcastic there. He probably didn't write this. Probably some smart young people in his office did this, because they're trying to link Bebo and MySpace, which is so yesterday, with Twitter and X. The fact of the matter is, I mean, he only had 50,000 followers, so nobody really cares. But yeah, this is this kind of new tactic of the political left to get away from X because they don't like it, and so they go to Blue Sky, which actually I'm on Blue Sky, and I only go there to wind up the left, and it's a suck platform, really slow, really limited. It's boring. So I guess, maybe that suits the left. I don't know. Okay. I found this one interesting. So do you remember Tumbler Ridge, where the trans shooter went into the school and killed some kids? This was in Canada. And there was obviously honouring of kids who were very brave and teachers and staff who were very brave in that situation. But the Premier of British Columbia went in to honour them while marking Pink Shirt Day. Yeah, Pink Shirt Day. Pink Shirt Day is the day where, and as we know in New Zealand, it's been overtaken by LGBT groups, where you promote gender confusion, sexuality, radicalism, the whole 112 genders, 200 plus sexualities. That's the ideology that actually drove the 18-year-old shooter, the boy who wanted to be a girl, and brought around this tragedy. They don't quite get the connection, do they? Related to that, Stuff had a survey, and it talks about the confidence amongst you Kiwis. It was done by Outward Bound. It's a small study, so I think, in terms of margin of error, you need to take that into account. But it says half of the people they'd surveyed, and 15 to 24-year-olds, reported anxiety or depression, and 57 believe the world is on a downward trajectory. Well, if you read the media and if you believe the climate alarmism, is that surprising that people think the world is on a downward trajectory? I mean, we're all going to burn in a handbasket, according to the climate alarmists. But the survey found a gender divide, with 44% of women significantly more pessimistic about the state of the world compared with 31% of men. So females are feeling more pessimistic. Now, there was some new data, actually, just before I do that. Instagram. Nothing like holding big tech to account, standing on their neck and making them squeal and making them more accountable. Instagram have decided that they're going to alert parents about their teen suicide-related searches. Here's the interesting thing, or two interesting things to note. Firstly, they know who the teens are on their accounts. So you don't need age verification. Big tech already knows this material. That's how much data they have on everybody. Secondly, they can link it to parents, which is a good thing, and that should be encouraged way more. That's that App Store accountability aspect. But the third thing is, here's the question: if Instagram are going to alert parents about their teens' suicide-related searches, rather than telling the teens, why don't Instagram take the suicide-related material off their site? Pretty simple solution, isn't it? So this is the accountability that we need to force onto these big tech, Meta and Instagram, or same thing, and also TikTok. The latest data on this is from the Mental Health and Wellbeing Commission, shows that a lot of people are struggling. 14% of all adults experience high or very high levels of psychological distress. But you can see there, it's almost 1 in 4 young people, almost 1 in 4 of Māori. But the rate for young people, you can see there, high or very high levels of psychological distress. You can see increasing there. Big jump since, 10 years ago, 6% up to 14%. And then when you look at the age, you can see that 15 to 24-year-olds, the top line, are the most likely to be distressed. And once again, this gender divide, young men, much lower rates compared to young women. And finally, unfortunately, Pacifican Māori have higher rates of psychological distress than other ethnic groups. One other graph. Oh, yeah, there we are. I was just wanting to show you that. So the interesting thing is that the Pacifica, the orange line, big jump in distress for Pacifica families, which, that is a concern, this whole area around mental health and the availability and maybe a return to Judeo-Christian values to bring that stability back, because the current the current secularization of our culture is not helping people's minds, and it's not helping our young people, is it? New Zealander of the Year finalists have been announced. I don't know which one you would vote for. Dame Julie Chapman leads the organisation Kids Can and Pet Refuge. Sir Richard is a neuroscientist whose expertise has helped better understand the human brain. And Sir Rod Dury is the founder of Xero and works to shape New Zealand's technology landscape through innovation, investment, and mentorship. So who would you vote for there? Julie Chapman, Richard Fall, or Sir Rod Dury? They're all dames, sirs already. I'd probably go for Sir Richard Fall, to be honest. I think anything around understanding the human brain and neuroscience is a key one. Good news out of the UK. The bill to legalise assisted suicide basically has fallen down. They've run out of time. And it was a private member's bill. Apparently, private members' bills only get debated on Friday in the UK. And it's just, not enough time. And it's going to fail. So that is a great shame. Well done to the campaigners in the UK. On a lighter note, the T20 cricket, the Black Caps were playing the UK. I don't know if you saw this one, and they were having the national anthem, and somebody must have been on helium before they sang it because it was super fast. Here we go. So this is the UK and England and the Black Caps. Let me just turn this up. That's a quick step. That's almost 120 beats a minute. You can see them trying not to laugh. Yeah, it's a little bit like the Chipmunks singing the national anthem, isn't it? Yeah, interesting. Now, remember Trump's excellent State of the Nation speech State of the Union speech last week, and of course, he challenged the Democrats. He basically caught them out, because he showed just how bad they are. And of course, the Republicans jumped on it. This is the advert they should play up to the midterms. Let me show you it.
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. These people are crazy.
Yeah, they're just going to play that until the midterms, isn't it? Because Trump was very clever. He called out, they couldn't even stand for detransitioners. They couldn't stand for victims of illegal immigration. They couldn't stand for anything. Some of them stood for, I think, Erica Kirk, I think. But don't hold me to that. But speaking of illegal immigrants, this is Stephanie Minter. Have you heard of Stephanie Minter? I bet you've heard of Alex Pretty and Renee Good. You know, the two ICE protesters that were killed when they were protesting. You've heard their names, haven't you? I mean, I counted more than 60 reports in New Zealand media about Alex Pretty and Renee Good. But have you seen Stephanie Minter? Stephanie Minter is from Virginia, and she was killed by an illegal immigrant who fatally stabbed her at a bus stop. This is who ICE are trying to get rid of, and Stephanie is who ICE is trying to protect. But the media haven't told you about that, have they? And the media aren't telling the truth. And here's another classic example from last week that I've been meaning to play, but I kept on running out of time. And it's about that terrible ICE going after grandmothers. But you had to hear the whole story. Have a watch of this. This is how much the media are changing the narrative to suit what they want to tell you, and why we have to use discernment.
So by now you've probably heard the story of Karen Newton. She's a grandma. So just like a kid in a fuzzy blue hat standing in the snow, the media have found their latest poster child for all of Trump's fascism. They hand-wringingly have told the story of poor British Karen and her husband Bill, who were taken into custody at the Canadian border, handcuffed by ICE and detained before being deported. Because Donald Trump is just so mean, he loves torturing innocent little grandmas. So now let's unravel this ball of yarn and tell you what the media doesn't want you to know. Turns out Karen has been in the United States before. She once came in on a tourist visa to visit her husband and overstayed it by 4 years. Oh, and by the way, speaking of her husband, he was let into the U.S. on an H-1B visa, and he overstayed it by 20 years. But despite all of that, the Biden administration gave Karen here a new tourist visa. So she came back to the United States to visit her illegal alien husband again, and they went on a road trip out west. When they went up to the Canadian border, Canadian officials told them they didn't have the right paperwork. Because other countries, they get to enforce their borders. Fancy that. So they turned around and went back through the U.S. checkpoint. And that's when U.S. officials realized that Bill was an illegal alien, and Karen here had a history of overstaying tourist visas. So they revoked it, took them into custody, detained them, and then deported them back to the U.K. Because fun fact, you don't get to come into the United States on a temporary visa and then just decide you don't want to go home. That's not how this works. I don't care how bad you want to see Yellowstone. Whether you are a criminal cartel gangbanger or a British grandma who likes knitting in canasta, the law is the law, and you don't get to just disregard it when it doesn't suit you. And we have the right to revoke the visiting privileges of anyone who does.
Yeah, amazing. Innocent British grandma until you get down to the facts. And of course, just the same with Stephanie, who was a victim, but you won't hear Stephanie's name in the New Zealand media. Now, just before I go, obviously, Candace Owens continues to lose her way and lose her credibility. It's sad to watch the demise, but Matt Walsh from Daily Wire did a fantastic analysis of just what's going on, and basically calling out Candace for the attacks on Erica Kirk. And I just want to play the very last comment that he makes, because he sums up just how mean-spirited and unacceptable the attacks by Candace on Erica are being. Have a watch.
Is that even in the immediate aftermath of his death, I could still put my phone down and turn off the TV and try to take my mind off the tragedy and go spend time with my family, with my wife who is alive and my children who are happy and safe with two parents who love them. I have that luxury, so does Candace. Erica does not. When I was trying to take my mind off of things, do you know what Erica was doing? She was explaining to her young children that their daddy will never be coming home. Do you know what that's like? Have you ever had to have a conversation like that? I haven't. I pray I never do. And every night since that day, while I am happily at home with my family and Candace is with hers, Erica is home with two children who are suffering a trauma that they're far too young to process, while she carries a grief that most of us can't comprehend. And all the while, she is gleefully ripped to pieces by hordes of people who cannot muster even the faintest shred of sympathy for her. All I know is that Erica Kirk is a victim, not a culprit or a conspirator. She doesn't deserve any of this. What she deserves is sympathy and maybe a little bit of grace. And if we really loved and admired Charlie, then extending that basic level of decency to his wife is the least we can do.
Yeah, well summed up. Actually, we're going to talk about that tonight. Team Candace or Team Erica, and a few other topics as well. We've got Peter, Simon, Susie, and Nathan. So that's going to be a fun discussion. All right, we are out of time. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you like this video and subscribe. Get the alerts when we come on. But tonight, 8 o'clock, Straight Talk. Simon will be here tomorrow morning. He's back from overseas, so 7:30 tomorrow morning, Solid Ground, and I'll be back on Wednesday. Until then, have a great day.